in Lae and Port Moresby gear up for New Year ops. NCD Governor says NICTA must consider extension. And what's your New Year's resolution?
New Year resolution
smoke some illicit smoke.
This is National EMTV News with Helen Sayer.
Good evening. It is the second last day of 2017. Thanks for joining us for the news this Saturday. NICTA's deadline to deactivate all unregistered SIM cards by tomorrow has been described as a logistical nightmare by NCD Governor Poes Pakop. Governor Pakop says this decision doesn't account for the bulk of population in rural areas.
The decision to deactivate all unregistered SIM cards is a costly exercise, says Governor Pakop.
Be flexible, extend the time and allow people to, come and register. I know, we want to do it fast, but, it's a logistical nightmare. NICTA is not paying the cost. The cost is being passed to the service providers, Digicel and B-Mobile and other mobile outlets. So, they should cooperate as well, because it's a costly exercise. It's also a logistical nightmare for the people to go and stand up in the queue.
He says there should not be any deadline for subscribers. This allowed them to register at their own convenient time, and NICTA should deal with mobile operators.
This idea that if by a certain date, like 31st of December, tomorrow, close of business, your SIM card is going to go off just because you don't register, it's not logical and not sane. Even myself, I have not registered because, does NICTA expect me to go and stand in a queue out there at the Digicel, tent out on the road? I can't do that, and they have not facilitated a means by which, people in my position are going to get our SIM card registered. So it's really stupid of NICTA and to make the demand.
This week, a lawyer bound to Francis based on human rights grounds filed an urgent application with the Waigani National Court.
Is for that mandatory process to be relaxed and made optional, voluntary, or it has to be made flexible, meaning that in this case there must not and ever be a deadline given, because it has to be optional, voluntary, or flexible. So every registered or every SIM card holder in this country can register his or her SIM card at a time convenient with him or her.
He said the SIM card deactivation process is unfriendly, especially for people like doctors and politicians.
Look at doctors, for example. They are busy. Every minute of their time is occupied. They are spending it on patients, and they cannot just leave their hospital or where they are, their workplace, to walk to the streets and join a queue for 2 or 3 hours just to get their SIM card registered. That cannot happen. Or the pilots, captains, or even judges, I don't think they have the time, and given the security concern as well, they cannot simply walk to the streets, join a queue for hours to get their SIM cards registered. These are some practical realities of life which have to be taken into consideration before implementation of the mandatory process. But at the moment as I'm speaking, that has never been done.
And yesterday, the Catholic Bishops' Conference of Papua New Guinea and the Solomon Islands called for NICTA to extend the SIM card registration deadline.
Problem with this SIM registration. So I call upon the government to put the deadline a little later, maybe 3 or 4 months later, so that they can work together and make sure that these ID cards or NID should be in place, and the expectations of NICTA should be easier on these people who have the SIM cards. They should be strict with the SIM card companies, whether it is Telecom or B-Mobile or Vodafone or Digicel. They should, from now on, they should have the SIM cards registered properly from now on, and they should be following the strict procedures.
Fabian Hakelitz, National EMTV News.
A non-government organization is seeking public opinion on the current SIM registration by NICTA and service providers. The NGO says mobile users in remote communities will be the worst hit if deactivation is carried out. The organization is urging the public to support their call.
Speaking to MTV News today, the NGO group says there is an overwhelming number of customers using the different mobile networks in the country. They say the current SIM registration is appropriate, but a greater awareness is needed. The group has filed a court case against NICTA.
So far, we've collected views from certain subscribers, concerned subscribers. So the process is ongoing, and we will continue to collect views from subscribers as we move from stalls to stalls where SIM card registration is going on.
All three service providers in the country are encouraging mobile users to get the SIMs registered. But the NGO has questioned this, saying mobile users in remote communities will be worst affected.
People like in the rural villages, they cannot come here and talk or register their SIMs. Now, we are taking on behalf of Papua New Guinea, we are concerned for Papua New Guinea as we spend our resources to, on behalf of Papua New Guinea, we take this matter to national court. And
according to NICTA, those who fail to register the SIM cards will be deactivated from the system. The NGO says if NICTA is able to extend the SIM card registration deadline, many will not be affected.
Our main concern is we are now trying to make sure that deactivation mustn't become compulsory. It must become optional, or it must become on a voluntarily basis. Be flexible, so that at least all Papuans could practice the democratic right through the process of whether or not to be part and parcel of that particular team.
Meanwhile, SIM registration is currently ongoing in all urban centers and towns around the country. Jack Lopava Jr., National MTV News.
Lae police were in full swing this morning in the parade for the New Year's special operations. This was their final parade of the year. The New Year's operations has just commenced at 6 this afternoon. Lae Metropolitan Commander Chief Superintendent Anthony Wagambi says police will be out in full force and have been deployed to hotspots around the city for a trouble-free New Year. He has also appealed to Lae residents to celebrate in an orderly manner and report any problems to police on the toll-free number on your screen. National MTV News will be back with more after these short messages. Stay tuned. Welcome back. NCD Metropolitan Superintendent Pero Ndrano says police manning roadblocks are expected to give appropriate fines and not collect anything more than what's expected. This is because there are issues on payment collection.
New Year's and Christmas operations in NCD will have various roadblocks in the nation's capital. NCD Metropolitan Superintendent Peru says that traffic offenders will be arrested, but in the case of minor offences, fines will be given.
Allowed sport fine, some are not, they'll be arrested. So it's up to that supervisor on that at that roadblock that time to make a decision, because some are so minor that we don't want to make an arrest for you to spend your Christmas New Year in the cell. Rather be given fine. But then again, it's how we collect those fines. So that's the message that I've given to our police officers, supervisors and officers, that ensure that it is done correctly.
After New Year's, police roadblocks will follow a certain standard.
Christmas New Year, we will put that ban still on, and it's up to the police station owner. If they want to do roadblock, then they must follow certain conditions that is set out. Like one of them is you must have a proper signage. You must have a good lighting. Police officers should be visible, and police officers should not demand for something else than their job requires. So that is the message to us.
The Met Soup urged the city residents to know their suburb police station commander and report any suspicions.
Incident that you think is not right, call the operation number, which I think a lot of people don't know, 3244-331, and advise or inform the operator this is what's happening. So I've also, a police station commander, you should know, if you live in Geru, you should know the number to the police station commander. So you can call him directly if it's happening in Geru or any other location in the city. But you're right, it's a concern, and we'd like to address it by imposing certain conditions, strict conditions for police station to conduct a roadblock.
All officers at roadblocks are expected to have fine books and fine correctly.
Once the traffic, he has access to that, then they have to request through the website the HR documented that this, then the number of receipt that they'll be issuing, and when they collect back the receipt, they should is equivalent to the money that they impose, so that it's deposited and it's accountable. Yes, it's not with the police station, but they need to request through the overseas traffic who's in charge of it and make sure no receipts just given to anyone that doesn't have a record.
Adelaide Siraks Kari National, NTV News.
More unregistered vehicles have been found at the random roadblocks by police of the NCD Central Command during the New Year special operations. Most of them are taxis without proper registration.
This year's areas of focus for the NCD Central Command include traffic checks and other alcohol-related incidents. However, during the special operations, it is found most of this vehicle providing taxi service do not have proper registration.
And that is displayed on the windscreen, special registration label. NCD has a problem because so many vehicles going on hire, carrying passengers without proper license. And during this festive period, we are checking those, especially taxis. So now, right now, you can see us. We are checking taxis. We are checking for the registration, the safety stickers. Drivers need to be properly licensed. To drive a taxi, you need to have a PME Class 6 or Class 2 with a PME permit.
And police will ensure the law is applied.
So that's how they do. So we are strict on that one. So once we come across taxis with no registration, simply we deal with them. We lock them up. So that's what we are doing now. So it's a message to all those taxis, all those people who operate in licensed taxis. We are on the road. So you come across, we come across, or you come across to the roadblock, you'll be dealt with.
In the meantime, NCD Governor Poes Pakop thanked police for their great effort.
I'm very pleased with the police. Up to now, they've done an excellent job over the Christmas period, and the incidents of nuisance and so on has been very minimal. I have not got any report of any major disturbance, so I credit the police, and I want to credit the MedSoup and the ACP and men and women in blue. They do their work. Many criticism, but they continue to do their work, and I want to salute them. Secondly, I want to thank our people in the city for responding and doing their part, embracing the spirit of Christmas. But now we're going to New Year. As I said, we all cooperate, make the New Year celebration and welcoming it a very joyful one, happy celebration, but moderate and peaceful. That's what we should all be aiming for, and I'm sure we will deliver it. But just a weather warning, we are going into 2018 APEC too, so the police will start to, be very vigilant.
Fabian Hakelitz, National NTV News.
Turning overseas, New Year's travellers who came for the best view of Sydney's fireworks spectacular are already staging their spots along the harbour for sure. Vantages were filled up fast, but there are options for those not willing to camp out so early.
Well, it is set to rain tomorrow afternoon, come tomorrow night, and we should see clear skies just in time for the fireworks. And around 1.5 million people are set to line the Sydney foreshore to see our spectacular Sydney fireworks. About 1 billion people are said to tune in from around the world.
And effectively, it's just not New Year's Eve until Sydney's let the crackers go. So it's an enormous impact for us from a tourism perspective. It's advertising you just can't buy.
Hollywood megastar Hugh Jackman is this year's fireworks co-collaborator. He will even get his own firework. To see it all unfold, a few prime positions are still available. Bradley's Head at Mossman is the only ticketed event not yet sold out, and that will set you back around $33. Or you can head to Mrs Macquarie's Point, Observatory Hill and the Opera House for free.
Well, something like 46% of the people who'll be watching this on the edge of the harbour are expected to be international visitors. So this has huge implications for the Australian and the Sydney economy.
Plenty to do and see right across Sydney on New Year's Eve.
Teenagers have been dragged from a burning car in a heart-stopping rescue. The crash could easily have been deadly, but the driver hit a pole and flipped right in front of police.
In plain sight of a police patrol, a car full of teenagers crosses a busy freeway, slamming into a pole and spinning out of control.
Back up, back up, back up, back up, back up!
Flames quickly followed, and so did police.
Watch your foot, dude!
Witnesses watched on as the officers rushed towards the crumpled wreck without hesitation, smoke billowing from its windows.
We looked outside and we seen that the car was turned over and it was actually on fire.
You guys back up! Car's on fire! Back up!
It's going to be a shock originally when you see that kind of car accident. You see the fire, but you know there's going to be people in the car.
We're just thinking keep going until everybody's out.
Come on, come on! Come on!
The officers pulled out 2 unconscious teenagers. One just 13.
Bullets in the car!
A third crawled out on his own.
We knew that we had to get those kids out because of the fire, so that was our first instinct.
Known as the Nick Squad because they share a first name, on this night they arrived just in the nick of time.
Unconscious!
National EMTV News continues with more after the break. Don't go away. Welcome back to the news. Obura Woninara district in Eastern Highlands province set a precedent in the country by submitting their financial reports in an electronic format to the Department of Implementation and Rural Development. Local MP Mera Kipefa says the district had taken this new approach, furnishing their reports in electronic format for distribution and swift appraisal. Mr. Kipefa says standards for electronic recording, processing and distribution of financial and other business reports is the way forward for easy accessibility of acquittal information for decision making. Implementation and Rural Development Department Secretary Aihi Vaki has congratulated Obura Woninara district for paving the way for other districts in the country. And MTV News took to the streets of Port Moresby, New Year resolutions for city residents.
So I'm new player now na. Kind of say me play kind game must come up so I'm boy stuff take part lo change number na. Look fetch new player vacams. Yeah. Look lo change now. When you pass in me okay lem time the old player but look lo raushim na. New player come so from the flow and the good plan na. Pass in lo drink na bigger number na kind of say come up fine man lem and plan it lo lushim. Amos be.
New Year resolution to me on a bigger passing because I make your money and make me by trying to stop him now. Trying to look for some of the future. I don't say be a number 2 number and one try to stop the league.
Mr. Smoke na Mr. Lucindic Lamalila smoke so Millicent smoke.
And NCD Governor Poes Pakop has called on city residents for a peaceful New Year's celebration.
To everyone in our capital city, I wish you all a happy celebration and all the best in 2018, and that goes to all our people in the length and breadth of our country. We are your capital city. We are here to set the example and standard, and I wish you all also the same in every part of Papua New Guinea. Thank you very much.
A family living at Port Moresby's June Valley suburb have been served an eviction notice but are confident the eviction notice is illegal. Elgin Kronos, a former military officer, says they were given a 14-day notice by parties involved to evict the house which they have lived in for over 30 years.
64-year-old Elgin Kronos, a former soldier who served in the PNG Defence Force, is one of the latest victims of eviction in the nation's capital. Kronos and his family were asked to leave their home where they have lived in for over 30 years. Kronos moved into the house when he was 19. He was a soldier in the Defence Force and lived with his father. Kronos was shocked when he was given an eviction notice.
Police evict me. Me disagree long this eviction because I'm injustice. Me no been stopped now. This and me come up nothing. House in blow me. And me no show him one paper. And me no show him one paper. Lo me some stat deck. And me no show him one paper. Some receipts and buy evidence. Money and me go low.
He says he was confused at how parties acquired the title to his home. He claims the title is still under his father's name and he has the documents to prove it.
Title? Let me start with the papa yet. Want the National Housing Commission. In that process, lapun money in time. I'm started blow me, I'm sorry, must me to sign him. There's a giveaway scheme and being given to papa, na papa hand him down lo me. He coming up now. Emi talk was a mitula Emi got title, but me like I used sign him agreement one the mem long state deck. Or some mem sale mouse longan. Now usat kissing money longan because me sub house, yeah.
Kronos has 4 children. They were all raised in this home and are now furious at the eviction notice. They plan on acquiring a stay order till the new year and will go to court with the parties involved. They have called on the Minister for Housing and higher authorities to look into this issue.
So me ask him go to Minister of Housing now. This la title me like you look into this la how this la title but this la house go to this la man. How I'm kissing this title, please me like the minister must look into this land, try law, find out so that this kind of something must not can happen. This place in people or family or some kind.
Now me like so how? Me appeal now me like ask him. Prime Minister, I'm looking at this law local. Prime Minister, Minister, all officers will give house nothing local man and blow on them.
Elijah Levet, National NTV News.
The Catholic Bishops' Conference of Papua New Guinea and the Solomon Islands has called for the promotion of family values. As 2018 looms, parents and guardians are to ensure children are taught moral and ethical principles to become good citizens of the country.
You know, I see that as we go through the different social problems, whether it is a rascal problem or sorcery, or any other social problems connected to internet, TV, all these things go to the values that the parents can give to the children. I call upon the parents to give good family values to the children. Because when we have good families, we have a good country. I wish all of you a very happy new year.
Chukai Sports is next. Don't go away.
Chukai Sports.
Welcome to Chukai Sports. The Interest Super Cup could be facing a ratings hit with its weekly televised match to be shifted to Saturdays. The Queensland Rugby League released its 2018 draw, which will see reigning premiers Papua New Guinea clash with grand finalists Sunshine Coast in round 3.
For the PNG Hunters. Now we saw that kick, it was very deep.
The Interest Super Cup has received good television ratings in recent years since securing a contract with Channel 9. The televised matches on Sunday afternoons kick off at 2 p.m. before the live NRL match at 4 p.m. This has lifted the profile of the competition. However, the televised match of the round will be played at 1 p.m. on Saturdays starting next year. The QRL is unsure of the effect that new time slot will have on ratings. The first round of the 2018 season will be played on March 10th and 11th and will see the Hunters kick off their Premiership defence in Port Moresby against the Ipswich Jets. The Falcons will host the Burleigh Bears in a clash of the coasts, while Todd Carney will make his first appearance for the Northern Pride against Wynnum and Lee Seagulls. Elijah Levette, National, NTV Sports.
For the last 3 seasons, NBA has been kind of predictable every year, and a toss-up between the Golden State Warriors and the Cleveland Cavaliers, who have contested every final series since 2015. This time, though, it seems as though genuine challenges are emerging in each of 2 conferences. The latest head-to-head match was between Celtics and Houston Rockets in Boston.
The Celtics won a very close game, which was definitely a surprise because at one point Houston were up by 26 points. But Al Horford's jumper there in the last 3 seconds secured the decisive points in a dramatic win, maintaining their lead at the top of the Eastern Conference. But that is only half the story. In amongst all of the late drama, Houston's James Harden found himself on the receiving end of some tough calls. In the last 12 seconds, one of the NBA's biggest stars was called for an offensive foul on Marcus Smart. And then, when the Rockets were trying to inbound after that crucial Horford score, Harden was given another offensive foul, again on Marcus Smart. It is very unusual to see such a marquee player penalised like that once, much less twice, in such a high-consequence period of time in the game, and Harden was livid. And he also called attention to the fact that there were only 2 refs. There should have been 3, but one had hurt his back during a warm-up.
You can't have 2 officials in a professional game. There's a lot of no calls that need to be called because that changes the dynamic of the game. It's a professional game, national TV. Can't happen.
Trukai Sports continues after the break. Stay tuned.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. When we're talking about the power of sport, it's not just to entertain, but to unite, inspire and heal. It's 10 years since Iraq so famously played in Asian Cup, and their performance in the 2007 was truly remarkable. Back then, their country was in absolute chaos and the team were considered no hope, as the squad comprised of a group of men who could so easily have divided by religion. But instead, they showed their broken country what could be possible. This is one of the most remarkable sports stories of all time.
كل لاعب وكل إنسان يفتخر بها إنه يكون هو بطل، بطل إنه لقضية، بطل إنه كلمة بطل يعني تعنيها الفخر إلي، بطل إنه دائما تكون أنت تعطيك هي الثقة إنه.
In Iraq, a decade ago in 2007, heroes were in short supply. A country ravaged by war. Still reeling from the shock and awe of an American invasion, plagued by sectarian violence in the wake of President Saddam Hussein's capture and execution. For many, survival was all that mattered. A game of football seemed trivial, an almost absurd luxury.
يعني سبحان الله، يعني كان عمارة هيك تروح هيك تجي، يعني شفنا مأساة يعني ما ينوصف. كنا نتمرن والقصف علينا. بعدين آخر شيء يعني أنا ما أدري أهلي وين صاروا في الموصل. بعدين كان عندي صديق عزيز علي غازي كان.
Violence was nothing new for the Iraqi national football team. For many years, they'd been ruled by fear within their own locker room. Saddam Hussein's eldest son, Uday, ensured that the consequences of failure on the field were brutal. But he was long gone, killed along with his brother Qusay in 2003. Still, on the eve of the Asian Cup 4 years later, the Iraqi team was in disarray. With just weeks to go until the start of the tournament, they didn't even have a coach. The Brazilian journeyman, Joven Vieira, was a last-minute call-up.
والله قلت لك التوقعات كان توقعات صعبة، يعني كنا مفكرين اتحاد، كنا حازين حازين ورا مباراة الثالثة للبغداد.
The result of the opening game, a draw against Thailand, did little to alter that mindset. But in the second game, against Australia, everything changed. A 3-1 defeat of the pre-tournament favourites transformed the belief among the Iraqi players. More importantly, it made people notice back home.
فاحنا كنا دائما نفوز اللاعبين، نرجع نسمع نشوف اهاليتنا احنا بدنا نسوي هذا الشيء، كنا نزيد دائما نزيد، نشوف العالم، بدنا نوحد العالم، بدنا نجمع العالم، بدنا نوصل الناس، بدنا نوصل الشعب الى نقطة مشتركة.
Iraq finished top of their group, and a win against Vietnam took them into the semi-finals. Since Coach Vieira had barely the time to get to know his players, his management style was unusual, but highly effective.
And the force to stay with them now 2 months, day by day, and we are together 19 hours minimum. Well, I start to understand their pain, you know. And the boys, they could jump all the problems to play football, to give a happiness to their peoples.
يتقرب على اللاعبين، كان هو جدا قريب على اللاعبين، كان يعني نقطته الوحيدة انه هو بغض النظر عن البدنية، بغض النظر عن التكتيكية، بس هو كان نقطته الوحيدة انه شلون يكون.
By the time of the semi-final against South Korea, Iraq were the darlings of the competition. And when they beat the Koreans in a penalty shootout, it seemed that nothing could stop them. Except perhaps one thing. Football fans had been celebrating in Baghdad, but their jubilation quickly turned to devastation. Suicide bombers killed dozens of supporters right after the semi-final win. For the players, it was especially cruel, rekindling memories of every horror they'd lived through to get this far.
فقدت صراحة هواية يعني من عشيرتي، تقريبا فقدت من عشيرتي أكثر من 50-60 واحد، وفقدت ولد عمامي تقريبا أكثر من 4-5.
After all of the bloodshed, over all of the years, it's rumoured that some of the players didn't want to go on. The risk of more violence, a price too high for a simple trophy. But one bereaved mother, whose son was killed while supporting the team, made the difference. She refused to bury him until they returned home as champions.
اللي زادنا أكثر إنه ثقة وإصرار إنه نكمل بالمنتخب ونكمل النهايات.
اللي انفجارات، اللي انقتل، اللي سمعنا أصدقائنا استشهدوا، اللي يعني شفت كل شيء ذبينا ورانا، قلنا بس نريد نعطيهم هذه الفرحة شعب العراق.
And so, on July the 29th, 2007, the Iraq football team took on Saudi Arabia, regional heavyweights and 3-time champions, for the biggest prize in the country's sporting history. Throughout the tournament, Iraq had been defensively sound, conceding only 2 goals. In the final, they were again resolute, but it wasn't until the 72nd minute when they scored an historic goal. It was a header from the team's captain, Yunus Mahmoud, a goal that sparked emotional celebrations among Iraqi fans all over the world. From New Zealand to England, Germany to Canada. The joy was unbridled and the achievement was symbolic.
We deserve to win today. We play much better in my point of view. I hope they can smile more times, not only one time, because this is only the beginning for them.
Thank you, Mr. Coach. Thank you so much, Coach.
Sadly, things didn't improve for Iraq. The emergence of ISIS plunged major cities like Mosul into chaos, and sectarian violence continued. In 2014 alone, a staggering 15,000 people were killed. The football team has barely played within the country's borders in the decades since. But 2007 will always be remembered, and it will forever serve as a blueprint for the future. The players believe that every single Iraqi played a part in their monumental victory.
And that ends True Kai Sports. The weather details up next.
True Kai Sports. True Kai Sports.
The weather details are proudly brought to you by Dulux Weather Shield. Worth doing with Dulux.
Weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow. In the southern region, thundery showers in Port Moresby, Daru, Kerma, Popondetta and Alatau. In the Momase region, showers in Lae, some showers in Medang and Wewak, and thundery showers in Vanimo. In the New Guinea Islands region, some showers in Lorengau and Kavieng, and thundery showers in Kokopo, Rabaul, Kimbe and Buka. And in the Highlands region, rain showers, then morning fog in all centres. Forecast for small ships for the next 24 hours. Waters of southern PNG Indonesian border through Torres Strait, Daru to Kiwai Island, Kerma to Yule Island to Hood Point to Samarai Island, waters of eastern and western Milne Bay Islands, and waters of Samarai Island to Cape Vogel to Finschhafen, waters of Finschhafen to Vitia's Dampier Strait, Tisiasi Islands to Long Island, waters of Long Island to Medang, Bogea to Wewak, Aitape to Vanimo and northern PNG Indonesian border, with waters of Manus and its western group of islands, New Island to New Britain to Bougainville, seas of 0.5 to 1.3 meters. Ocean forecast for PNG areas in the Coral Sea, seas moderate with southeast winds at 10 to 15 knots. In the Solomon Sea, seas slight with northwest to northeast winds at 10 to 15 knots. In the Bismarck Sea, seas slight with northwest winds at 10 to 15 knots. And in the Pacific Ocean, seas slight with northeast to northwest winds at 10 to 15 knots.
The weather details are proudly brought to you by Dulux Weather Shield. Worth doing with Dulux.
Before we go, a quick look at our top stories. Police in Lae and Port Moresby gear up for New Year ops. NCD Governor says NICTA must consider extension. And what's your New Year's resolution? And that's Saturday's news, a day from the new year. From the entire news team, pleasant viewing. Good night.